What is up, Knicks fans? Hope you are doing well. I know you are doing well after a huge comeback victory on Sunday night for the Knicks in Game 3 against the Indiana Pacers. And there is so much credit to go around. The defensive energy and impact in the second half, the Karl-Anthony Towns offensive versatility takeover, countless other things. But in my opinion, there was a stretch in the first half that gave the opportunity for all of those things in the second half to even happen. And so let's look at that in this breakdown. Right now, New York only down 13. 4 minutes to go in the first half. Brunson driving. Turnover created by Tyrese Halliburton. They're going to go in transition. 3-on-1. Obi Toppin. Lob finish. Now a 15-point game. Brunson gets a decent look from three. Misses. Again, Indiana out in transition. Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges all here in the middle of the lane. A little bit of confusion, a little lack of communication. Halliburton is able to stop, top of the key, knock it down. 18-point Pacers lead. Now, Josh Hart, I think he was a little off balance in the first half up until the point we're about to break down. Throws this pass. Halliburton jumps the passing lane, gets out, gets a bucket. 20-point Pacers lead. And it starts right here. To me, obviously, the comeback starts right here, right? This was the highest point, 20. But this action right here after timeout. I've been critical of Tom Thibodeau and his rotations and some of those decisions, but this is a great action to get OG and Anunoby down here. Little zoom action. Hart sets the screen on Toppin, gets him held up. Now he comes off with Mitchell Robinson, and then watch the little subtle highway screen, the Gortat screen from Mitchell Robinson as OG does a great job swiping back through across the other way. Robinson gets just a little piece of Bradley. OG gets to the rim and finish. That is a huge bucket right there, because think about it. You don't score. Indiana does. They start taking this to 22, 25. Completely different story than what ends up happening. I also want to highlight this action right here, because I think a part of the stuff that happened in the second half was Indiana didn't go back to this action as much. So what they're doing, they're bringing Brunson into the ball screen like every team has done in the playoffs. But then what they're doing is running a flare off of that. This makes for a long recovery for Jalen Brunson, because usually he's going to hedge the screen, right? So he doesn't have to switch. Now you're going to come in and you're also going to flare screen him. So now he's having to navigate that flare screen to get back to Aaron Naismith in that situation, and allows him a closeout to attack. And again, like I've highlighted multiple times in these breakdowns, it wasn't just like a straight 7-0 run to get where we get to. There was some missed shots. There was some buckets by the Pacers. There was some fouls. And as we see right here, a really good possession. Watch the way New York fights over screens. So Bridges fighting over the top. Brunson helps, gets back. Here, OG is going to fight over the top of this handoff to stay on Pascal Siakam. Again, Bridges fighting over the top of the handoff. Matchups are staying the same. Now we get a flare screen on the weak side, so OG can close out. Hart on Naismith. Nice little stunt from Jalen Brunson right there. And by the end of the possession, you're forcing a Bradley three-point attempt. Maybe I'm not familiar with this game, but I think as a Knicks fan, you would take this. And I also want to hit the end of the possession with this. Josh Hart attacking this defensive rebound. Again, it's still a 19-point game. Think if Ben Shepherd comes down with this board and gets a putback, but he doesn't, because Josh Hart attacks that rebound. Now as we continue, still a 19-point game, a little over 2 minutes left. Brunson gets here to the little floater. Josh Hart's going to work himself in, anticipate this opportunity, comes down with the board, and as we always talk about, he's so good immediately playing out of that offensive rebound, and OG hit some big-time threes throughout this game. You know, again, you remember the late game shots, stuff like that. I thought he made some really big threes throughout the middle portions of the game, including that one. So now we are down to 16. You think like, okay, here comes a little bit of a comeback. Siakam gets OG attacked on the closeout, and here's a foul on Brunson. So not only are you still down 16, but now Brunson's going to the bench with foul trouble. It's right back to 18 with a little over a minute left to go. Josh Hart attacks in isolation. Probably not a play type you want to live in if you're the Knicks, but he gets a big bucket. So now we're down to 16. Halliburton coming off a ball screen. Really nice. Watch these hands from Mitchell Robinson, anticipating the pocket pass and getting his hand in that pocket passing window to force the turnover, even though Shamet ended up turning it over on the ensuing transition opportunity. And then again, a sneaky big play from OG Anunoby. Off that Shamet turnover, numbers for the Pacers, right? 4-on-2. Siakam in transition, and OG holds up here, stays with him, contests a potential shot at the rim, forcing it to be a pass, and now New York can settle into a half-court defensive possession. Little things like that are so important that show up nowhere in the box score, and then allows this to happen to close out the half. So Bridges operating the offense with Brunson out of the game, uses the Mitchell Robinson ball screen to break down the defense in a little bit of a Spain action, makes the correct decision. Love this from Shamet as he attacks this closeout to keep the advantage. This is what it's about in the NBA, any level. Advantage exploitation. Can you keep the advantage? Can you exploit it with a shot, with another drive, with the pass? Bridges breaks down the defense. Shamet doesn't shoot it. He's going to drive it to keep the advantage by attacking Aaron Nesmith, and Mikal Bridges, with his great off-ball movement, settles into an open passing window. The catch and shoot knocks it down, and that gets the lead down to 13 going into half, which I think is a huge portion of the game that then allowed the completion of the comeback in the second half from the heroics of Karl-Anthony Towns.